If you're over the age of 65 and you fall and break your hip, your chances of being dead within a year go up by over 20%.
We were all fitness prepping because I'll put all these deadlifts into a room and someday when the zombie apocalypse comes, I'll be ready. You know, we've forgotten the point was to have bodies that feel good and are pain-free.
Ben Bergeron.
Ben is one of the most successful CrossFit coaches of all time, as well as an entrepreneur.
Ben is the coach to CrossFit champions, as well as people who just enjoy CrossFit on the day-to-day.
He's coached some of the top athletes in the sport of fitness, such as CrossFit Games champions Matt Fraser and Katrin Davidsdottir.
The nervous system plays into health and performance. And I don't mean it in the way of like, let's be springy, reactive, and do plyometrics. What I mean is, do you feel safe and can you down-regulate outside of training? Our mission has always been the same, which is to create a family of humble, hungry, happy people who kick ass in their 90s.
Ben, welcome to the Ready State Podcast.
So good to be here. I know you guys for a long time, so it's great to be here.
Yeah, let me set this up.
Yeah.
We were all teenagers together in high school. Like we went to the same high school.
Yeah.
I think I was 14. I think you were riding along with me when I got my driver's
We were
license.
like friends on MySpace.
Yeah. 100%. Everyone, Ben Bergeron has been part of our community and in our family of coaches and athletes for, literally almost 20 years now. And it is always a pleasure.
Just for reference, Kelly had hair and you definitely did not have gray hair. So I'm just saying that's how long it's been.
I'm going to point out, I just saw this thing on the internet, which I really thought was appropriate. And it's called the 4 stages of being a man. And
This is awesome.
You'll appreciate this. This is how long we've known Ben, everyone. When I met Ben, I believed in Santa Claus. Then I didn't believe in Santa Claus. Then I became Santa Claus to my children, and now I look like Santa Claus. So
that's the 4 stages of being a man.
4 stages of being a man. And now I'm Santa Claus phase. We're gray, and you are at the peak of your available coaching power. You have never been better. You've never been more reasonable. You've never it's really fun to watch super talented people evolve and evolve and evolve. And last thing I'll say before we jump into this, 15, 20 years ago when I started getting into Perform Better and Exos and all these places, I remember being like, man, all these old coaches know each other. Like, how do you break into this old guys network? They've all known each other.
Yeah, now we're in it.
We're it. And I'm like, okay, this is what happens. Like, we know everyone and you know everyone.
Keep digging a ditch for 20 years.
Yeah, that's right. So, pretty soon you're like, oh yeah, Ben, we're old mates.
We're old mates. Okay, so to kick this off, I'm just going to say one of our favorite quotes from James Clear, which is, we don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems. So you've been in this business for a long time. And what do you think is the single most important system, whether it's physical, mental, environmental, that everyday athletes are getting wrong? And what does getting it right mean for their long-term fitness?
Wow, that's a great way to kick this thing off. And for starters, I appreciate being a part of the Old Guys Network. That's awesome.
So awesome.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying, Kelly, that at the peak of this thing, it's certainly been a transition. It's certainly been an evolution. When we came into this thing, it was a lot different. It was just how fast can you do thrusters and pull-ups. And I think now it's a lot more about a holistic approach, a long-term play, more focused on not just, what does tomorrow look like, but what does it mean to be kicking ass today, tomorrow, and forever, right? Kicking ass into our 90s. So I think that's the kind of the prism, that's a framework that I now come to training and coaching with. Kind of evolved from how do we make world champions to how do we work with the kind of population you just laid out. People that are here is whether it's a weekend warrior or trying to lose the extra 10 pounds or trying to have a little extra vitality. And if there's that one sort of system, I don't know if I would call this a system other than I think it is the first place to start, which is, it might even be a James Clear thing as well. So if it is, I want to give credit. It's the power of your environment. Your environment is so vital to your success. And I think it is James Clear. It's the idea is to make bad habits, put as much friction as you can between yourself and bad habits, and make the actions between yourself and the desirable habits as frictionless as possible. The way that I encourage people to do that, I believe that health, vitality, um, kicking ass to our 90s comes down to 5 different things. It's how we eat, sleep, train, think, and connect. My prescription for that is to train, and we have a prescription for training, but to train 5 or 6 days a week. Eat real foods, sleep 8 hours, think like a warrior, and connect with yourself, others, and nature. I think the hack, if you will, and I hate that word, but if there is a way to set yourself up for the greatest level of success, is to be around other people that have that same set of values. It's just you
Yeah.
are going to, um, it's not only are you gonna fall to the level of your systems, what really is going to happen is you're going to fall to the norms, the social norms, your friend group. And as much as you want to lose those 10, 15, 20 pounds, and you're going to the gym every day, if you're also going to Dave and Buster's and having a pitcher of beer and 3 rounds of buffalo wings with your buddies 3 nights a week, you're gonna have a really hard time achieving what you want. If the system is you are around like the gyms in our space, right? The CrossFit gyms and the gyms like us. If you go to those places, you are by default around those type of people. And I think that that's the biggest thing. If you're trying to do this on your own, if you can't do one of those, join one of these virtual communities. You guys have a virtual community. I have a virtual community. But set yourself up so where the norm, the social norms are in line with your visions, values, and goals. It's that alignment that helps out more than anything else.
Yeah, I love that. And one thing,
Wait,
if
I
I could just say on the
No way, I'm gonna let you go, but I have to just apologize because clearly I'm just dragging you down.
the
He's speaking, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, Julian.
That's not true, baby. That's not true, baby.
I should have brought home those donuts last night. I'm stuffed.
Kelly does love a dessert item.
Yeah.
So the environment piece has come up in so many different ways. I mean, we coined this term called create a movement rich environment. We couldn't agree more. And I think, one of the things we've been so focused on is expanding what you can think about as an environment. And, we had Sean Stevenson on our podcast, and he wrote a whole book about kind of basically creating like a kitchen culture and kitchen environment and a table culture and table environment. I think there's so many of these little micro environments in our life, whether that's your work environment or your TV, like we have a little TV environment, right? So our TV environment makes it so that it's comfortable for us to sit on the floor and mobilize while we're watching TV and sit in the Normative
Love
boots, right? So there's sort of these like broad environments, but then there's all these little micro environments in our life that we can influence in the way you said that environment piece is just so important. So
Yeah. It's like if you were to take that, right, and work environment and think about whether you think micro or you think in terms of these pillars, right? So what is my training environment and how can I make training more the norm, not the exception, right? How can I make it so it's, um, there's a cue, an action, and a reward? How can I make it so like this feels like it's a rewarding experience? I enjoy going to the gym and seeing these people. And if that means not training as hard because you're scared of going to the gym and doing that hard workout and feeling that way, like, yeah, like do that. Like, don't record your scores so you're not on the leaderboard. Whatever you need to do to create that environment. It's not just necessarily the physical, it's the psychological environment, right? It's if you fear going to the gym because you don't think you're going to do well because you're not going to be on the leaderboard the way you want, change that up as well. So there's the training environment, then there's the eating, the kitchen environment, the kitchen micro. If you have crap food in your house, you're eventually going to eat
it.
crap food. Like it's so simple. It's like why even worth having the conversation, except that it really does matter. So if the dessert is, I always think about this, like I don't have enough willpower. So just
none of us do.
I was my so this is like the way my default like mind works. And it's like I know how like perverse this is or strange, but I'm I would rather like finish the bag of granola, the Oreo cookies, the ice cream. I need to finish the whole thing in one sitting so that I don't have to fight against it anymore. I just want to
It's like the whole sleeve of Girl Scout
yeah,
cookies
no,
or like single serving.
Why are you guys saying whole sleeve? It's a unit.
Yeah, it's a unit of
it's a serving.
serving size, one sleeve.
The idea is like I have to if I don't finish this, I'm going to end up eating the whole thing.
Mm.
That's what goes to my mind. So,
You know, you both are talking about environment. I was just at my daughter's anatomy and physiology class today at high school,
super cool.
and they're in the sort of nervous system chapter. And I said, "Hey, number one, you guys have both made this point that you need a system of systems. And the way you have to sometimes learn information is to chunk it one unit at a time. My training is distinct from my nutrition, is distinct
Mhm.
from my sleep. We know, though, as we've all gotten way more complex, and that these things all interrelate. And what I said to these kids was, I was like, hey, all of this very sophisticated information we have access to pales in importance to us feeling seen, feeling safe, and belonging, and having these rich relationships. And what I heard you say in the beginning was, when you go in and create that sort of environment for yourself, and you really are conscientious about having fun and excited about the people you show up with, sitting down and breaking bread with your family and friends and coaches, what we do see is that it does reduce a lot of friction, and it makes the load bearable, and not only bearable but enjoyable. And so much of the work I do with teams now is really looking at how do we set up a place where the human brain perceives itself as safe, as the person belongs to the group. And then everything else just sort of falls into place in that way. And I think about two athletes we know, Kaylee Humphreys, who's an Olympic bobsledder. She'll be one of our Olympic bobsledders again. She's the most decorated bobsledder in the world. She was saying that at her peak when she was really getting good, it was just really easy. She didn't have social media. She didn't have distractions. She had phone. She just literally went to the bobsled. She went to the gym. She went back home, and it was just rich. She was just in this little microcosm of people on this journey. Alex Honnold would climb and then go back to his van, climb and go back to his van, right? And just get a lot of work done. And I think, the simplicity of what you're saying is really elegant and really difficult to make. And I want to just highlight that you were one of the first coaches in my CrossFit world, not the first coach to do this, of course, because you're smart and everyone has been thinking about this, but you really started thinking about the person and belonging. People moved into your house. They felt like they had a tribe. They had a connection of people, and that safety really does allow people to go do extraordinary things.
Wow, yeah, it's so cool to kind of pause and push on that and double down on the connection aspect. I call it connection. Being seen, the person belonging to a group and how that the importance of that. I think it's one of the most it's so cool for you to highlight this because one of the questions was asked to me recently, what's one of the things that once you see, it's hard to unsee? And this is it for me, is how the nervous system plays into health and performance. And I don't mean it in the way of like, let's be springy, reactive, and do plyometrics.
Right.
What I mean is, do you feel safe and can you down regulate outside of training? We need, as you know, we need really acute stress to be able to cause a stimulus that we can adapt to and get stronger. We also, as you know, that will be suppressed to a degree if we don't allow ourselves to get out of that sympathetic nervous system. If we stay in that heightened state, we will not respond to the training the way we would otherwise. Our our body's made up of these, whatever, depending on how you count it, about 13 different systems, right? All of those systems from, you don't have to be as smart as Kelly to know what those are. Everyone listening will recognize, the digestive system, the immune system, the cardiovascular system, the reproductive. It's like these are all words that we know. when we are in a stressed state, when we don't, and what that means is when we don't feel seen, when we don't feel like a part of a tribe, a group, we feel on the outside, when we feel alone, those systems don't operate optimally by design because they're not supposed to. You're supposed to be in fight or flight. You're supposed to be able to run away from the saber-tooth tiger. So let's forget about the immune system. That's for later. The pathogens, not a big deal. Like what we need to do is get blood to the working muscles so we can get at a dodge. And this idea that once this is the biggest thing is once you see you can't, is how detrimental, I'll call it stress, like this chronic, not acute, this um the stress that doesn't go away is to fill in the blank. Athletic performance, gains, losing weight. I actually think this is the most underrated thing in terms of sleep. Everyone has a gazillion different ways to work on sleep. And it's the big things where they always talk about it's the QQC, quality, quantity, and consistency. Everyone talk like, and there's all the things from lighting to circadian rhythms to, temperature regulation and all these different, but the biggest thing we do talk about, like get off screens, which has a little bit to do with this, but we're not talking about is the stuff that happens outside of that wind down window, which is your default, your 80/20. Like what is the 80% of your day? If it's just like, I have no connection with other people, I don't feel seen, I don't feel part of a tribe, I'm isolated, you have such limited potential compared to the opposite, which is, as you said, when I had, these freak stud athletes, I wanted them to live with me. And they did. They lived with me for sometimes years because I wanted them to have a meal with a family at a dinner table. Didn't want them to they didn't even own cars, right? So there's no car insurance. There's no gas. There's no paying excise taxes. They would drive to the gym with my wife. They'd meet me at the gym. We train. I'd drive them home. All the meals, like everything was together, communal. I think that's such a underrated aspect to health, performance, and longevity is this, I am seen, I am connected with other people. I think that, the Harvard study has highlighted the importance of
Mhm.
relationships, but I don't think it's gone deep enough to say what you said in such a great way is like, I'm seen and I am a valued member of a group.
Word.
Yeah, I mean, word. I think that's so critically important. And I think the thing with CrossFit that they did so well, and we all did so well, I think, was that community and
Yeah.
connection piece.
And we thought about it quickly. When people
Yeah.
walked in the door, they were greeted,
Yeah.
like consciously.
Seen.
No one could walk in the door and not be seen.
Yeah.
Hey, even just a random coach you don't know. And number two, we made everyone shake hands before we even started. People know each other for 10 years. We're literally like, we are going to make sure that you are seen every single day.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
so important. Yeah, I love that question. Like I want to steal that for future episodes. Like what are you seeing that you can't unsee? That's such a great. I love that question. So I want to switch a little bit to talk about the training piece,
Yeah.
the training pillar, and we obviously all come from a CrossFit background. But as we talked about in the pre-roll,
And defining that as Olympic lifting, sprinter, gymnastics,
Right.
classic strength and conditioning. That's it.
yeah, but we talked about this in the pre-roll a little bit about how we've all evolved in our thinking about training, and what we were doing when we first opened our CrossFits when we were all in our 30s, and how we thought about that and what our focus was. I think has changed, and my guess is our philosophies have changed in similar ways over the years, and especially as we've all gotten older. And one of the things I keep seeing these days on the internet when people are talking about training is that everyone's like now all into talking about progressive overload, and you just have to do like the same set of 6 movements over and over again. And that's the only way to build muscle and get stronger. And that definitely sort of flies in the face of, the training method that we all grew up using, which was, a little bit more diverse and I wouldn't say random at all, not
Oh,
random, but
conjugate.
yeah, but conjugate. And I just wonder what your philosophy is on and sort of this idea of okay, well, the only way to truly get stronger is this really sort of linear, like 5x5s,
Mhm.
progressive overload. And if you're doing any kind of mixed training that looks more CrossFit in style, um, there's sort of a trend where people are like, that's not effective. You're not actually going to build muscle and get stronger. So I guess that was like a 7-part question, but how has your philosophy about training changed over the years? What are you really focused on now? And what do you think about this sort of trend where it seems to be sort of saying, hey, this CrossFit style of training isn't actually effective for building muscle and getting stronger?
Before diving into like any of the specifics of a training protocol, I think that in the fitness space, we could use a lot more of the yes and
Right.
as opposed
Right. It's
to
complicated.
y-
There's
eh,
more than one way to
right.
do
It's
things
not
well.
right. There's more
Right.
like for someone to say it's the only way. Like I just don't think that there's absolutes in our space. Um, and I think that that's kind of a red flag. Um, that we should instead be looking to say yes. And this might also work as well. So people have seen a lot of success with a linear progression. People have also seen a lot of success with undulating. People have seen a lot of success with random. People have seen a lot of success with conjugate. People have seen a lot of success with Texas method. There's enough different ways that we've seen that people have had success. I think what we should do is be more kind of like which is what we did a lot of in the early days, is we went, "Hey, what are the best practices? What's the what are some people that are doing this really well in their specialty, and let's learn." And I think that people get a little bit, tied to a doctrine, a method, tied to what they've seen success with for themselves or their athletes. It's the same thing we see in nutrition all the time. Nope, like, if you eat blueberries after dinner, this is the way to lose weight. It's like right? It's like and this is the thing. It's like and this is why you have so much of this, like, no, it's about vegan, it's carnivore, it's keto, it's macro. It's because people have had and the answer is yes. Like, the answer yes. All of those things will work for the right person. So, that's kind of the preamble, before going into maybe the way that my perspective has changed over the years on if we want to talk strength specifically, but maybe zooming out a little bit in terms of like fitness at large. When we first got into this, um, to me, I love the competitive aspect of what this brought in terms of like CrossFit. I was coming out of being an Ironman triathlete, thinking that that was the pinnacle of fitness. I was trying to qualify for Kona and Worlds, and I really thought like if I could do that, that's as fit as you can get. And then I can remember watching the first CrossFit Games and being like, "What the crap is that?" And knowing immediately, like immediately, how narrow scoped it was that I was pursuing. And that's the thing that just drew me in completely. I was like, I always wanted to be able to do Ironman, but also be strong. But at certain points, once you get past maybe like a 245 bench press, getting any stronger as a triathlete isn't that beneficial. You should be carrying extra weight. I was like, I want to get more though. So like, how can I like, and I saw this, and I was like, that is such a better um, test and such a better definition of fitness. I think that I was so motivated to compete and then coach and excel at the sport um, that it leads you down. You have to become sport specific. No, no one goes to the Olympics for the 100-meter dash without learning how to start out of track blocks. Learning how to start out of track blocks doesn't make you fitter. And that's where I kind of like have shifted is I've taken these movements that are necessary to compete in this sport, but maybe not that beneficial outside of the gym. And that's what I've kind of like shifted towards a little bit over the last 4 or 5 years, is away from how do we compete to become better at a sport to truly this balanced and transferable, multi-dimensional aspect of fitness. So a lot of that is still grounded in the tenets that we grew up with, right? Co- Constant variance, functional movements, high intent, all that stuff is still there. I think the things that have changed is I've actually implemented a great deal more structure than what we originally grew up with. So when we originally started this thing, and Kelly was a part of it. You remember, like, we would give the programming lecture, and it was like, you keep it as varied as possible. Routine is the enemy. And just kind of like, but what you find is that after working with these elite athletes for 16 years of trying to get them to be the very, very best, that's not what we do. We have routine. We know we are going to strength train a certain amount of days. We are going to make sure that we're hitting certain different aerobic capacity pieces a certain number of days in a, call it what you want, week, month, training cycle, whatever it is. So what I've kind of done is gone, okay, what are the best practices that we used with these super elites? All the while I was still training the 8:30 moms. So I never lost this kind of like, this is what the real world looks like. I kind of lived in this world myself in between, where I was like, I want to be really fit, but not compete. So I kind of had those 3 kind of like tiers. I've kind of gone, what is this thing what's the best practice that I can create as of right now with my knowledge base that I have? Hopefully in 5 years it's better. But based off of right now, this is what this looks like. And the structure to it is thinking of strength not just as what I think most people think of strength, which is the maximum ability to move an external load, right? That's your absolute strength, which is certainly a huge component of that. But there is other components to it, like explosive power. And that's where we've involved more plyometric work, which we didn't do before. It's not really a part of the CrossFit space. People are like, no, we do box jumps. Box jumps in Kelly is not plyometrics. That's a conditioning tool. So I now do absolute strength, and we also do explosive power stuff. And we also do muscular endurance stuff, which CrossFit certainly does a ton of. And that's what we think of strength now, is like kind of those 3 buckets. And then we kind of taken conditioning and gone from, okay, let's just do random. Random's a derogatory, so I don't want to say random. Maybe not quite as structured. EMOMs and AMRAPs, and this one's 10 minutes and this one's 20 minutes, to a much more structured approach of, we want to make sure that we're hitting anaerobic capacity, VO2 max, lactic threshold, zone 2, the appropriate amount of times inside of a week or a training cycle. So before, it was kind of like, when it shows up, and you realize, when you kind of go back, like, oh my God, we were basically just doing anaerobic capacity work for
For like 10 years.
Yeah, for 10 years. And even if it was
Drowning for time.
even if it was a 20-minute workout, it was still anaerobic capacity. It's like, it was kind of a mismatch, right? You didn't have that total alignment. And then,
Let me
go ahead.
I just want to point out for everyone just listening that we hear these conversations and sometimes we hear these critiques, and I want to remind everyone what the state of the union was 20 years ago, because it looks really different. It's important to understand that strength and conditioning is not mainstream. The internet really broke this open in what we call in
It's
kind
a
of
really good
second
call out,
wave.
Kelly. It's yeah.
And when we started all this thing, like you actually couldn't do a ring dip. You couldn't overhead squat. Overhead squatting 135 pounds was like a heroic thing. Caroline, my 17-year-old, like does peak wattage interval pieces and then just casually snatches and overhead squats. And that's before she goes to water polo practice. Like, the world has changed. I always say I bought my first pair of Olympic shoes out of a car, like a drug deal, like in the back of a store, like you couldn't
Of course,
buy
they were
them,
like,
right?
they had like the wood base on them.
Yeah, VS Athletics. I was like, oh, I'll buy those. And So we had was a huge, like you, kind of traditional big aerobic engine power. That's what we valued.
Yep.
And then we had people who did come out of real strength and conditioning programs, and that was typically track and field and Olympic lifting only. And then you were exposed to football strength and conditioning, and that literally looks very different. Like just strength is never a weakness. Mass moves mass, right?
Yep.
And at the time when we're bringing people along on this journey of becoming more skilled and more conditioned and stronger, like it's not the same place we are now. And we saw that people became very decorative in their training and lost the narrative of what we were training for. And I think that's something that I've seen your evolution of asking, what is the point? Because this is just recursive fitness. I chase pull-ups so I can chase pull-ups so I can chase pull-ups. You pointed out, you're like, hey, I bench pressed 245 and it didn't make me a better swimmer or cyclist. So that's lost some utility. Doesn't mean you're going to stop benching,
Right.
but it means that your strength in benching has sort of reached its sort of maximum yield because you had something to apply it to. And I'm going to call it the fitness race, where we're all fitness prepping because I'll put all these deadlifts into a room and someday when the zombie apocalypse comes, I'll be ready. We've forgotten the point was to have bodies that feel good and are pain-free, to be able to go play new sports and learn new skills more quickly. And, as I famously say, maybe be less gross for my wife in the bargain.
True
Right?
fact.
So how are you thinking about because now coaches have so many tools. I
Right.
mean, you can buy kettlebells at
Walmart.
a Walmart and Target. Like, okay. Like something has deeply shifted. That was a obscure Russian farmer's training implement, right? That came in. Like, it's crazy that that's in Target now. So
I remember
when people-
buying Pavel Cicilline's book and being like, "Oh my god, like what?"
this is crazy. The
Yeah.
10-minute,
You're like, how do I find the kettlebell?
Yeah, 10-minute kettlebell snatch test was one of the most sinister, gnarly conditioning expressions. Dude, Caroline can do that like before she goes to bed, Like our kid was swinging 100 kettlebell swings for extra popsicles a long time ago. We're terrible
God.
parents, I understand. But
What's your point here?
the point is, how are you thinking about fitness as a standalone now? Because
Yeah.
we're selling fitness as I can just do a bunch of work and it'll cover all my needs. And we're seeing it fall on its face as people get injured playing pickleball. I'm like, your Peloton fitness burn didn't really prepare you for sport. How are you thinking about that dynamic of meeting people's fitness needs and preparing them for actual sport and testing their fitness with sport?
I love going back to set the stage. So this is like to even set the stage before, like when we started. Fitness wasn't a thing.
No.
Like 60 years ago, there was no such thing. Unless you were training for a sport, there was no such thing as fitness. A guy named, I think his name was Kenneth, wrote a book in 1968 called Aerobics, which ignited the craze called jogging.
68.
So
That's yesterday.
yeah, so exactly, it's yesterday. So all of a sudden, the 70s became this jogging craze. Late 70s, Arnold Schwarzenegger pops on the scene, and then he's the Terminator in the 80s, and bodybuilding becomes the next thing. So now you have these two kind of like polar opposites that have infiltrated the training and fitness and workout space. I don't think people recognize how much influence those two things still have today. It's either I'm going to lose weight and get skinny by doing a lot of aerobic work, or I'm going to lift weights to get bigger muscles. And when CrossFit popped up on the scene, and this is again only 15, you were at the very, very early days of this, but for me, 20 years ago, when it popped up, that was the first sort of like, wait, it might not be just about those two polar ends of the spectrum. There might be something else. And as you said, I love to kind of like reminisce and realize like there was no such thing as bumper plates. Like forget about overhead squats. Like no one even knew what bumper plates were.
No.
Very few people trained with barbells outside of a Smith machine. Like you had the easy bar curls.
This episode of the Ready State Podcast is sponsored by LMNT.
I want to talk about one of the problems that happens with athletes when it gets cold. They stop
They
drinking
just,
water.
their hydration goes into the total
It's
trash
really
can.
crazy. And
Yeah.
look, you're going to see some decrease in your VO2. You know what the problem is? You're foggy and your tissues suck when they're dehydrated.
Yeah. And also, it's not just young athletes, it's us. I mean, in the
What
winter.
do you mean not young athletes? What are you talking about? Was Santa Claus over
in the
here?
winter, you and I are either just drinking tea or coffee sometimes until 2 o'clock in the afternoon when we're like, uh-oh,
You say that like it's a bad thing.
we haven't had a single drop of water, and maybe the water in our coffee isn't the most ideal hydration source.
It is less ideal because it's just not enough volume. Like,
Yeah.
you know, what I mean, like I could drink 3 liters. of
Enter hot element.
Yeah, I'll just say that it's probably, and it continues to be my absolute favorite way to smash a liter of water. It's warm. It is so tasty, and I am just over water. I'm over it. I want to be entertained. I want it to have
Yeah.
some flavor.
Yeah,
you know?
and Element has all these amazing flavors that I think originally were designed to be served hot.
Yeah.
Chocolate and mint chocolate and a
that's
variety of
cute.
other flavors.
cute.
But our go-to is actually all of the more citrus
Yeah.
flavors. It's like a super yummy citrusy hot tea.
I started drinking really hot, sweet lemonade tea in Nepal, like I think 300 years ago when we were trekking. And I'll tell you, the
It was in the
lemonade.
1900s.
It
for
was
sure.
in the late 1900s. And the lemonade element you throw it in your favorite Yeti. It's so hot and you will crush it. And I guarantee what's going to happen is back's going to feel less achy, less brain fog. You're not tired. You're hypohydrated, bro.
Yeah, and this stuff has no sugar. It's got sodium, magnesium, potassium. Tastes great warm.
Yeah.
And just honestly helps us get more water down during the
You
day.
also, when you go work out, you will feel better. I promise it. And we know that hydration is one of the rate limiting features of muscle synthesis, protein synthesis. So don't rate limit your muscles, bro.
Huh.
Get on that hot element. And right now, if you go to order through our link, you can get a free sample pack of Element's most popular drink flavors. And of course, if you want to party in your mouth, you can always sparkle it up with sparkling. Go to drinklmnt.com/TRS. Take it away.
We literally drink it every day. This episode of the Ready State Podcast is brought to you by Momentous. And what we want to talk about today is one of our go-to supplements, and that is creatine. And in this case, creatine for kids. That's one of the biggest questions we get asked.
Specifically, you're talking about youth athletes.
Youth athletes. There was a new randomized control trial published in September of 2025 in the Journal of International Society of Sports Nutrition, showing that creatine can significantly enhance technical performance in adolescent basketball players, especially when they are required to think and perform at the same time. So this isn't the first study on creatine in kids. And I believe the research is pretty clear that like almost anybody can take it at any phase of life. But I know that parents understandably are particularly concerned about like supplementing their kids.
Oh yeah, but give your kid that bang energy. That's totally fine, right?
Yeah, that's
Right.
fine, but a little
fine.
bit of creatine.
So there's a couple things. I think you're living under a rock if you haven't heard the word creatine. But specifically, we want to just remind you that it has these amazing benefits. All the science, go back, listen to our podcast about it, right? But one of the things you can do if you're feeling sketched out is buy a good brand of creatine. And a creatine that has CreaPure as its source, made in Germany.
yes, high quality, the best quality.
It's not sketchy. It's not made in a bathtub. And those things are other things, the byproducts I won't even go into here, are so gnarly. But the other thing here is that whatever creatine source you're getting, it has to be NSF, which
certified for sport.
yes, which means it doesn't have contaminants in it. It means that it's not sketchy and laced. It means it doesn't have byproducts in there. What's in there is in there, and you can protect your family. Do not give your kids or anyone in your family creatine that's you just bought off Amazon. Sketchy, unless it's NSF for sport.
And our favorite creatine of late is the relatively new Momentous creatine
It
chews.
solves such a problem.
And they're particularly great for kids who sometimes aren't as excited about supplementation. These things taste like
What are you
lemon
talking about?
lime
Every
sweet
kid is like,
tarts.
yes, supplementation. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The barrier to being able to get your kids to eat creatine,
Yeah.
like with these little like sweet treats.
Yep, we just leave them on our kitchen counter, and we just find that we all take them more regularly and more consistency
Yeah.
because they just taste awesome.
Because that's what I need, more sweet treats. Yeah. Thank you for creating a monster Momentous. Check it out. If you want to go to livemomentous.com/TRS, you use code TRS and save up to 35% on your first subscription.
But like it was, if you went into a traditional health club, you were either in one area doing the elliptical.
Thank you for saying health club.
Yes. You're either on the machines trying to like read People magazine and try to just go for 20 to 40 minutes really slow, or you were doing some strength stuff, and if you were using a barbell, it was only for
You're doing,
curls
like,
and bench.
hamstring curls. Yeah.
Yeah. There was definitely no burpees. There was no gyms with open rubber floor spacing. This truly, it was a fitness revolution. It changed what we are doing. So the way that kind of think about that is what we want to do is make sure that everything that we're doing, I like to think this is like, we only have so much time. People only have so much time. So what's the greatest bang for the buck we can give them? So if somebody only has 30 minutes a day and they're going to train 3 or 4 days a week, what should that training session look like? And I want to give them the biggest thing. And there's this, as you said, here's the things that are kind of like popping up on the scene, whatever it is. My algorithm sends me zone 2. I don't know why, but I get all the zone 2 stuff. If someone only has 30 minutes
That's because that's what old people are supposed to do, Ben.
Exactly. If someone only has 30 minutes a day for 3 days a week, I don't want them doing zone 2 stuff. That's just not going to be beneficial. So that's where I always start, is when you start talking about what should someone's training look like, it starts with, well, tell me the constraints I have to work with.
Yeah.
How much time do we have? I think it's the most overlooked question. And maybe it's because I actually don't know why, but that is the number one question, is like, what are we going to say is our allotable time? Is it going to be 20 minutes, 3 days a week, 4 days a week, 5 days a week? Is it an hour? Is it 90 minutes? Because that is then going to shape it. And where I'm going to go to is the most potent. The shorter it is, the more potent it needs to be. So accessory work and all the extra stuff is awesome, but not at the expense of, right? We really need to do is, it's the same term we've been using forever, but we got to build people's work capacity. And we got to be able to build it up. And the biggest thing we can do is get them to push, pull, squat, lunge, run, jump, carry better. Like, that's the deal. If you can focus on what someone's limiting factor is, right? Okay, you're not strong enough. You don't have enough of an engine. Your range of motion is super limited. We're just going to lean farther into those areas, but not neglect them. Not say we're only going to work on those things, because what we need is a well-rounded fitness. You are as, like, the number one correlate for, I shouldn't say the number one, very strong correlates for how well you are going to live into your marginal decade, right? And live longer with more vitality, is your physical capacity. And what everyone's going to is these single things. It's VO2 max, it's grip strength, it's whatever the soup du jour.
Yeah, the latest like internet test is.
No. We got to get you stronger and put on muscle, but you can't get heavier.
That's right.
Okay.
It is, I mean, if you zoom out just the littlest bit, again, it's the yes and. It's yes, it is those things. But it's not any one of those things. It's just so obvious that it is the totality of your physical capacity. I want you to be able to jump even when you're 75 years old. That might not be on a 24-inch box, but I need you to jump over the line in the floor. Like, otherwise, what happens when you trip getting off the curb? Like, I need you to have that little quick, reflective, powerful movement. I need you to be strong. I need you to be able to work through full ranges of motion. I need you to be able to push and pull and squat. And the higher the capacity you have in your 20s, 30s, and 40s will benefit you later on. So that's what I'm thinking about now, is really, it's been our, even when we were the super competitive gym, our mission has always been the same, which is to create a family of humble, hungry, happy people who kick ass in their 90s. Like, it's always been about that. I don't know why that was the thing I was still shooting for when I was, in 30 years old, but somehow that resonated. Like, I do want people to actually, I do know why. I mean, it's a little bit of a longer story, but, um, my best friend lost his dad way too early, and it was because he didn't have health. And that's brutal. Like, it's just brutal for that. My cousins lost their mom and their dad way too early, and it was because of their health. Like, when you see kids, when you see, like, losing the most important figures in their lives way too early, right? Like, in, middle school, high school, and in college, and it's completely preventable. It's hard not to. I mean, that's ultimately the reason I have done
Yeah,
this for
do
the
what
last
you do.
20 or 30
Yeah.
years. It's exactly right. Yeah.
So I have a comment and then sort of a question, but the first is on this, and we'll move on from training here because there's so many other things to talk about. But one of the things I think is doesn't get enough cred when it comes to this conjugate training is it's fun
Mm.
and keeps you interested, which I really think is, I would not keep up my strength training practice if I had like 6 moves I did and all I did
Yeah.
was go to the gym and do like 5x5 squat and then 5x5. Like I would find that to be that may work again. It's the yes and
Right.
that kind of training I'm sure works for many people, but for me, I'm definitely more of a novelty seeker, and for me to stay interested in and engaged in a program of any kind, but specifically a strength and conditioning program, like I cannot be doing the same thing every single week. Like it's got to be varied, and I think that's one of the things that for me is important and undervalued in a strength training program. So I'm just shout out for that. And then quick last thing, there was a podcast recently with a physician and some well-known strength and conditioning coaches where they said that nobody over like 40 should be squatting or deadlifting, which I don't agree with. And I just want to
Okay.
know what your point of view is on that.
Yeah. The short answer is I don't agree with it either. I saw that podcast, and I should say I saw the clips of the podcast. So
Yeah, same.
I don't want to say that I saw the whole thing, and there might have been more context to it. But actually, no, I think I listened to at least up through that part. Um, And the really short answer is I do not believe in that. I believe in building strength. I believe that strength is best built through the core foundational movements of squat, dead, push, and pull. I believe that that is best developed in those movement patterns by trying to lift the heaviest possible so you get to a threshold. So when you start to lift heavier weights, you get more benefit. It's kind of like duh, but you get not just a musculature, but the as we talked about earlier, you get a neuromuscular. You get the central nervous system gets involved. The best way to get the heaviest loads on you is with a barbell. So if we're chasing this longevity thing, not only is it the most beneficial thing you can do for pure strength, which matters, not only is it the thing to do for muscle mass, which is also matters, it's the best thing you can do for bone mineral density. And a little bit of the science behind that part is bone mineral density matters because if you're over the age of 65 and you fall and break your hip, your chances of being dead within a year go up by over 20%. That's like catastrophic. So we got to do everything we can to improve bone mineral density. What's the best way to do that? The way we grew up in the old aerobics world was impact. It happens through like jogging, like running is the best way, jumping, jump rope. That is a way. So I don't say no because it's yes and. Yes, that is a way. The better way to do that is through strength training. Bones actually get the strongest, not from the impact, but by the muscles contracting against the tendons and ligaments and essentially trying to break the bone. And the bone resists against that. And that's what actually creates the greatest bone mineral density. So if we're trying to preserve function, if we're trying to preserve bones and muscles, it matters. And there is you basically unrivaled movements, which is squat, dead, pull, and so on.
I'm gonna go out of the garage and now just say, I'm gonna go try to break my bones.
Yeah.
Break my bones.
Break my bones. One of the things that I want to appreciate here, and want everyone to appreciate it, but you a little bit, and we hinted at a little bit, is that your first operating system language is strength and conditioning. You have great success. You've been doing it forever. We could see your receipts. Like one of my favorite things now is like I'm on the internet. I'm like, oh, who has this person worked with? Can I see your world champions? Can I see your military group? Like, oh, you're in a gym by yourself. Like, it's not even your own gym. Like, you actually have been responsible for someone's long-term athletic development. But I think sometimes the least interesting part of you is the strength and conditioning expertise. So I certainly got into that and, recognized I was like, oh, we have this opportunity over here. But now, there's so many aspects where sport becomes this framework where I become interested in the next thing, which I see as a huge limitation. What are you sort of obsessed with right now? And I hint at that you do a lot of mental skill
Mhm.
training. And what I'll say, and Juliet hears me say this all the time, if I went back to school now, I'd be in like group dynamic there. I'd get a PhD in how to like organize teams and have people belong. And maybe that's some psychology, right? But it's, we see that people don't have any framework for setting goals or being successful or
Yeah.
dealing with hard experiences. That's something that's very interesting. I mean, what's interesting to you? And, explain that a little
And
bit because again, your first love language obviously is like, if I need a good program, I know I can find you, but that's, I feel like now the least interesting thing.
yeah, and also
And
sub
what's next?
question, how are you applying that to the people you're working with?
Yeah. I actually don't love the word. So, short answer is mindset. The really quick kind of like let's maybe set a little bit of a disclaimer to that. I really don't like that word mindset. I've gotten away from mindset. First off, I, I don't think it's your mind, and I don't think it's set. So, I have a friend, Chris Irwin, who calls it mental fitness, and I like that a lot better. Fitness implies if you work at it, it gets better. It implies that it's not just the mind, but it's a totality of your mentality. The recent things that, if you ask kind of like what am I kind of focused on now outside of the coaching, strength conditioning, programming, it's really in I'm ki- I really like the word character because I think it's actually the biggest thing is how do we act? How do we carry ourselves? And to me, that's your character. Your personality is how you act in peacetime. When things are going really well, that's your personality comes out. When you're surrounded by your friends and you're doing the things you love, that's your personality. I don't think it counts for a whole lot. It's like because some people are introverted, some people are extroverted, some people are curious, some people are funny, some people are, it's just like I just it's who you are. Um, and I think it's a little bit. I think that is a little bit more of the nature and nurture. It's just kind of like your personality came out kind of through that. Whereas character is truly more like, the Carol Dweck. It's like it's the thing that you develop and you do it intentionally. And it's hard. And if personality is how you act in peacetime, character is how you act when you're challenged. And if you
Is the gym the right place to develop this, or is this the only last place to develop it?
you can so you can develop it a
Well,
whole bunch of
sport.
different ways, right? You can develop it just like you can with any sort of psychological framework. You can develop it by journaling, meditating, long walks in the woods, solitude, stillness, talking to a psychiatrist, reading scripture. There's a whole bunch of different ways that you could go about trying to develop and forge this. My biased opinion, obviously, is I think all of those pale in comparison to you going and doing a hard workout. I really do. I think that the gym is the best place you can go to develop your character. Dot, 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 if done intentionally. because you see tons of people. This is where it gets kind of missed, is like that idea of like, does lifting weights develop mental fortitude, fitness, toughness, or is it just the physicality that kind of creates a higher buffer? I don't think that because I've seen it. And the story I give is like when Katrin first came here, she did a workout. It didn't go the way she wanted to. And she was short tempered. She took off her weight belt, threw it across the room into the corner, yelled out some swear in Icelandic, went out the door and slammed it behind her. And so she was a games level athlete at that point. It's like, so even getting to that high level didn't teach her the resilience, didn't teach her the fortitude, didn't teach her the patience, didn't teach her how to stay centered and calm, didn't teach her the emotional maturity, didn't teach her how to handle hard better. Over the years of doing it intentionally, doing hard training with the intention of developing your mental fitness, I think that's the biggest difference. It's the same thing as you were to go to group therapy. If you went to group therapy just because it's like your parole officer said you had to do it and you have no intention of actually changing, it's not going to change you. But if you went in there like, this is going to be the best thing for me, I'm going to get everything I can out of this. I'm so curious of what this process is going to be like. And I can't wait to see who I am on the other side. Totally different. Like intention matters, right? It's the difference between manslaughter and murder. Like your intention matters.
Thank you for the lawyer reference.
I appreciate that because we are in like grind culture, just, show up and just blind effort. Another coach and I kind of coined a term that we called it plausible deniability, because you could be like, well, look how hard I worked, so it's not my fault. And like, you don't
Right.
own anything. You could just show you're like, well, I broke, or I wasn't strong enough, or whatever. But it's and that plausible deniability gives you an out versus exposing it, the whole thing. And I think something you said when I said gym, you said also sport,
Mhm.
Yep.
is that we are hoping, and Juliet and I are very obsessed with this because we have kids in sport and we work along a lot of youth sports and collegiate kids, is that I think parents are hoping that we can develop character through sport, but it just seems to be a lot more busy work training, and there's not a lot of intentionality around that.
Right.
Would you agree, Jeff?
Oh man, yeah. I mean, I love that.
How do you do that in a session? Because what you're actually describing actually is a really good yoga class, honestly, where someone's like, this is what we're working on. Let's come here. Let's, this is what we're thinking, hey, stay centered. That's not what happens when I still go into a lot of gyms. I go into a lot of gyms and the music is cranked and it's just 3, 2, 1, go, or hey, we're just grinding under this heavy load with my headphones
Got their
on,
headphones on.
right, in the big commercial gyms. How do we, because what you're describing is coaching and teaching, and almost like people use the word personal trainer. I'm like, I've never identified with that word, because I was like, there's a lot more to this. And now I'm like, is coach even a strong enough word? It's like, guru, mental facilitator, like, there's not even a word for that anymore. But how do you do that day to day without going too woo and without eating up the valuable 30 to 60 to 90 minutes that you have? What does that look like?
Yeah. So I actually I think coach is the right word, because I actually the framework I use with my coaches is most of the people you'll see here are not coaches or trainers, they're cheerleaders, right? And cheerleaders, if it's better than not being a cheerleader, like it's because if you're not, then you're a spectator on the sidelines. Like
And I'll use coach as the highest moniker of respect I can give.
that's right.
Else.
So it
yes,
goes,
coach.
to
It's
me,
very
it goes
formal.
cheerleader, trainer, coach, right?
Mhm.
And a cheerleader is like, let's go, guys, you got this. And you can be really motivating. Like that could be a really high level cheerleader.
Yeah, like I always think like spinning classes have cheerleaders.
Great
Like
cheerleader.
usually spinning class instructors are great cheerleaders.
Exactly. Then when
Yeah.
you get into a trainer, so a trainer in the spin world, right, would be teaching points of performance, right? It would be teaching to use the totality of the circle on where should their hands be? Do we have shoulders externally rotated, or are we hunched up in the upper back? Is our head neutral? We have like all those little things. Are we riding on the rivet? Now we're talking like training. A coach is one that then takes it beyond the points of performance, beyond maybe even identifying, rooting, and fixing issues, to the psychology of the individual athlete, or if you're working with a group, the actual dynamics of the group, right? It's like Kelly wants to be coached this way. Juliet wants to be coached this way. And I might yell at one and whisper to another. It's this understanding of now I'm not just working with the individual, but it's the holistic approach to the athlete as well. It's not just I can identify, see, and correct, root, and make the athlete move better. I'm fixing the totality of it. So that's, I actually, right. I think coach is the highest modicum of respect. But to answer your actual question, the way that we bring that um, change in mindset is the same way you would bring change to anything, which is you create awareness about the issue, you create a strategic plan, execute it with intentionality, and then repeat that action. So the framework is awareness, intention, action. So the first thing we have to do is understand what mindset is. We have to bring awareness to it. And mindset is simply the story we tell ourselves. So that's what it is. We need to bring awareness to the words that are going through your head. Most people, when they are kind of told that, it's challenging because it's not a constant narrative. It's more like a kaleidoscope of thoughts. It's all these competing thoughts in their head. So what we need to do is get them to be aware of it so they can slow it down a little bit and listen. And when they slow it down and listen, what we want to do is hear the language. And is the language that's going on in your head, which by the way, for a lot of people is not just in their head, it'll be shown through their body language, or it might be shown through the spoken word. And it's through the spoken word that's really powerful. And we really need to change that. Words dictate actions, actions dictate behavior, behavior becomes who you are. So what we want to do is, that's why we have all of these bracelets that I'm wearing now, which say never whine, never complain, never make excuses. Like you can't do that. If you're doing that, we have some, we're so massively hurting ourselves. So then what we want to do is bring awareness to the language in your heads, body language, or spoken word. And we frame it up. And we just kind of go like, hey, is this the language of a victim? Right? Woe is me. They always program these types of workouts. God, I can't believe it fell this way. Like, oh, everything is against me. Or above that is a pessimist, which is not like woe is me, but it's like this sucks. This is gonna stink. This is gonna be so hard. Or next above that, and these are sort of like hierarchical, pessimist, victim. Above that is the optimist, which is like, it'll be okay. Don't worry about it. Sunshine, rainbows. Most people stop there. And to me, that's just like the middle. Like that's just like, okay. It means that we don't have issues. But what we want to do is evolve past that to a realist. And a realist just understands like, yeah, you're going to have bad training days. Like, yes, like it's going to rain on your birthday. Like, yes, we don't have enough perspective even right now to know if this thing is good or bad, to why get so wrapped up in it. And then what we can do is if we work on this language enough and bring enough awareness to it, maybe we get to like where have a warrior mindset. And that's why train 5-6 days a week, eat real food, sleep 8 hours, think like a warrior falls into this, and then connect with yourself, others, and nature. When you think like a warrior, what a warrior does is once you become the best old school Japanese samurai, once you dominate the dojo, you don't stay in the dojo. A true warrior does what? Goes roams the earth for a worthy foe, right? It wants the challenge. Once you become good at surfing knee-high waves, you don't want knee-high waves anymore. Why? Because they're not a challenge. You want the waist-high ones, and you want the overhead, and you want the big barrels. Like, I don't even surf, so I hope that's the right words. But that's the idea is the warrior seeks out. They look forward to, they know what they're going to evolve through the challenge. So awareness, intention, action. Awareness, what does your language sound like? Bring huge, like, don't let it slip. When our athletes say words, we call them on it. We snap our bracelets. Like, you're hurting yourself and me. Like, we got to bring crazy levels of awareness to this. if your kids are talking with a victim or pessimist mindset, we talk about it. We say that and we try to reframe it. That's all it is. So the awareness, the intention is when I talk like that, when I have those thoughts in my head, I will follow through a process to reframe them to a next level up. I probably won't get to a warrior, but okay, at least let's try to get to as close to optimist as we can. And then from there, the action is I'm going to do this every single time this pops up. In the beginning, you're only able to do it with the small things. Over time, you develop your mental fitness and you can do it with bigger things more frequently.
And how are you seeing in your clients when they're, following all of these pillars? How are you seeing it? And, I see, I know you've worked with so many elite athletes, but I'm talking about more like your, 8:30 moms class or, your 6:30
They're
p.m.
not there
ones.
at 8:30.
They're at 9:30.
Yeah, 10.
Yeah.
Um, how are you
30
seeing
the 837 class?
how are you seeing the transformation in humans from following this method?
Yeah. So the first one is like the no mystery, right? Right. People get leaner, they get stronger, they get healthier. Um, they come back with, the really cool ones are when it's not just that, but it's justified by lab work and blood work and like all that stuff goes in, and then all of a sudden they're off medication. Like they're doing their first pull-ups.
Yeah, huge win.
Yeah, all those things are awesome. Um, the really, really cool ones are the ones that, so I had one just last week. He came up to me, he's like, we're outside of Boston. His daughter goes to college in Pennsylvania. He is driving with his son to go to his daughter's lacrosse game. So they're going to drive from Boston to Pennsylvania, like 7 hours. Halfway through the drive, he gets a call from his wife and goes, I'm sorry. The game isn't this weekend. It's next weekend. So he's driven 3.5 hours in the wrong direction for nothing. He has to turn around and drive another 3.5 hours back. He, in the past, was an athlete. Everyone's an athlete. He was a guy that would have lost his shit. He would have gone off the rails. Like he had a rage thing. And what he instead was like, I felt that thing, the trigger. I was like, wait a minute. I don't need to go down that path. I can get myself back to center. What this means is I just have another 3.5 hours in the car with my son. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then that's what he's saying to himself. And I'm like, that is way more than pretty cool. Like the fact that, and he went back to his house and instead of losing it on his wife, which he would have done before, he came in the door and his wife was fully braced for like impact. He was just like, got home and he was like, hey, babe. And just like that to me is like, I call it being centered, right? When you're traveling the path of life, we want to stay centered. If we're driving through a tunnel, you want to stay in the center of the tunnel. You don't want to be smashing into the walls, smashing the walls. That's when you get knocked off center. We're all going to get knocked off center. The goal is how quickly you can get back to center. That is something that would have taken him maybe weeks or maybe never gotten back to center from. He might have held his grudge against his wife forever for that. But the work, as I said, like we know that like it's so much more than the workouts, right? If you bring the intentionality to like, we are going to work on more than your muscles and your lungs and your range of motion. It's going to build up your mentality, your character as well. That echoes outside the gym, which is the coolest thing ever.
Do you coach that person's wife as well?
No, but she's a friend.
Oh, because I just want to give her a shout out.
She's actually
Yeah,
she's a world champion triathlete.
Oh, there you go. Because I want to give her a shout out because she didn't make an excuse. She's like, oh, I messed up.
Yeah.
And like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And
Yeah.
knowing
There's
him, the safer thing would have been to like just like let him drive the whole thing. Leave
Yeah.
these states away at that point. Let him deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah, she's got like another set of
Shout out
hours
to
to-
that
yeah.
woman who knew
Amazing.
was like, oh, I owned it. And then now it's your problem.
Yep.
Well, Ben, it's such a total pleasure to talk with you, and I think we could go for another 2 hours. But we have a question we like to ask all of our guests
cool.
called the Infinite Shelf. Before we wrap, what is one book, film, show, or album you'd contribute to our infinite shelf, and why does it matter for you?
Oh, are there still albums? Do people still make albums? Is that a thing?
I mean, I think they do. I
Yeah.
think they do. Yeah.
I guess this has to be new, right? It could be like the
Yeah.
Beatles' White Album. It could be like
Yeah, it doesn't need to be current at all.
Appetite for
It could be-
Destruction. Yeah. Uh,
Spotify said you're 95 years old.
all right. One book. So so of those different mediums, I'm definitely the book person. I'm not the person to go to for recommendations on any of the others. I would say that the book I've recommended the most over the past probably 2 years is the Almanac of Naval Ravikant.
Tell us more.
Are you not familiar with it? Have you?
No.
Oh, wow. Okay. So Naval is amazing. He's one of these like Silicon Valley / but he's also like an Indian philosopher. So he has this kind of like really cool duality of business, of happiness, of the totality of what it means to live a meaningful existence as a human. And he has these different frameworks that are just so dang simple. And the book is written in such a way that you could sort of like just pick it up and read it anywhere. And it's these mantras, it's these memorable principles that help you in business, in health, in happiness. And it's become a really guiding principle for a lot of what I do.
I love it.
I love it. We can't wait to read it. We'll let you know how it goes.
Now let's just say that you're a middle-aged dad and you need some motivation. Where can I find Ben on the internet? Where do we start?
Yeah, like point us to your comp train program and where people where would you send people? And you obviously have written a book and you have your own podcast. Like, let us know about
Yeah.
yours universe.
Entree.
The first place I would say is comptrain.com. If you're interested in the training side of things, it's an app with daily training. That our idea is to build high capacity, high character human beings. That's what it's about. It's about training pretty hard, but in a way that allows you to live a more meaningful life. Beyond that, Instagram, unfortunately, is probably the next best place. And I have a podcast called Chasing Excellence and also written a couple books. So Amazon.
And you're at Ben Bergeron on Instagram,
Yes.
right? Just straight up. Okay.
And if I want to come just live in your house and have all the things stripped away and
Natick, Massachusetts, come on.
have someone drive me to the gym and get coached, I can't
Sounds
guarantee
so
a world
dreamy.
championship at my age, but maybe that's what's gonna.
Yeah, I would love it. The invitation is there for you, Kelly.
I've already been there.
Yeah.
Lived at your house. I know what it's
well,
like.
Ben, this has been a total pleasure. Thank you so much for being here. And we're just delighted that you joined us.
I appreciate you guys so much. Thanks.
Thanks, Ben.
Hey, Kelly and Juliet here. If you're ready to feel strong, move freely, and have a body that's built to last for life, we've got something special for you, the Starrett system. It's our 12-week strength and lifestyle training program.
We designed it so you don't have to guess what works anymore. We blend strength, mobility, and recovery into one smart system that actually sticks. Over 12 weeks, you'll train with us and learn from our expert guests, build strength, lose the stiffness, wake up with more energy, and finally feel in control of your body again.
We're running a free 7-day in-app challenge starting January 5th if you want to check it out. The first 2026 cohort starts January 12th, and early birds get $200 off.
If that sounds like your kind of move, go to thereadystate.com/system to apply. We'd love to help you show up stronger, more capable, and ready for anything life throws at you. Let's make it happen. We'll see you inside.